Hello, welcome to AI Corespot webinars, where we explore and understand the critical role of technology in various sectors. I hope you all are having an ecstatic day. I'm Archana Nair from AI Corespot, your host for the day. Today, we will indulge in yet another technology-imbibed discussion, digital revolution, charting winning strategies for credit union transformation. Joining me today are Nitin Naveen, VP of Innovation and Strategy at AI Corespot, and my colleagues Arvind Kannan and Naveen Kumar from AI Corespond. Special thanks to them as they will help us make this event smooth and glitch-free. On screen joining us are esteemed guest speakers and our moderator. But before we dive into this interesting discussion, let me walk you through AI Corespot feeds. For over 3 years, we AI Corespot have been on a mission to create a top-tier professional-driven community focused on evolving technology advancements. Every month, we introduce a new theme offering an in-depth exploration of all tech-related sectors, and we have been steadily gaining momentum. We aim to become your go-to source for Industry 4.0 technologies. We prioritize industry-backed webinars, face-to-face and hybrid events, ensuring our knowledge base is built on credible data provided by esteemed industry leaders, subject matter experts, thought leaders, and our trusted partners, InfoVision and Digit 7. Digital content is enriched with videos, blogs, podcasts, news, and newsletters to illuminate the ever-evolving industry. Exciting times are ahead. In the coming months, we'll be diving into various cutting-edge technologies, and we can't wait to share it all with you. Stay updated with our daily news and upcoming webinars by following us on social media. For more details, visit our website at www.aicorspot.io. We'd love your support. Don't forget to like and share our content. Now let us dive into the discussion focusing on the digital revolution in credit union. Join our expert panel as they delve into the digital landscape and its impact on credit unions, share winning transformation strategies, explore how to enhance member experience with technology, tackle cybersecurity challenges, and discuss future-proofing through continuous innovation. Further, if you have any questions, I request you to put them up in the question and answer section, and our moderator will take them up as and when possible. Moving on to the speaker front, we have Marcus Manning, Chief Information Officer from Smart Financial Credit Union, Chris Hill, former Director of Product Management, Wealth, Morningstar, Michael Compton, Vice President of Information Technology Solutions from the Summit Federal Credit Union, and Yuvraj Mohan, AVP BFS from InfoVision, will be moderating this discussion. Special thanks to our community partners, Smart Financial Credit Union, Morningstar, the Summit Federal Credit Union, and InfoVision. Now here's an important disclaimer. The views shared by the speakers are their personal ones and not related to any organization that they represent. That said, let me hand over the stage to Yuvraj Mohan. Over to you, Yuvraj.
Thank you, Archana. Good morning, good evening to all of you, wherever you join from any part of the world. Like you all excited, even I'm equally excited to hear some of the winning strategies for the credit union transformation. And we have three experts already in the panel who are going to share their views, Marcus, Chris, and Michael. So probably I'll start with Marcus, to start with some of the why it is so important for the entire organization to understand the company's digital strategy, goals, and direction. Maybe Marcus, if you can share your views from there, we'll start.
Absolutely. So thank you guys for having me. Really looking forward to the conversation. So I think it's very important, if not imperative, to provide clarity to the organization. It's like when you're rowing a boat, right? You get in the boat and you want to make sure that everybody's rowing in the same direction. And you also want to provide clarity, and you want to provide the why. A lot of times we do things and our employees don't necessarily understand why we're doing what we're doing. And providing that guidance, providing that focus, providing that why really inspires them and gives them the clarity around, hey, this is why we're doing what we're doing, and this is the things that we're trying to accomplish. And then also, too, I think it helps from a cultural standpoint. When a culture really feels like they're engaged and they are really making a difference, it inspires them to want to come to work every day. It really inspires them to want to do their best. And then I would also say from a technical standpoint, I think it helps alleviate or avoid scope creep, right? So being a technologist, we are attracted to the next shiny object. We are attracted to the next big technology that's on the forefront. Well, if it doesn't necessarily align with our strategy, it doesn't necessarily align with our goals and with the vision of the company, then it may not be the best investment for the company. So I think articulating that vision, articulating the strategy behind the vision, and the why we're doing what we're doing is really critical, if not imperative, for sharing your vision with the organization.
Thank you, Marcus. Well said. How critical the strategy, goal, and visions are. Unless Chris and Michael, if you want to add, maybe I can ask Chris to, while we have the strategy, vision, and goal for any company, which is going to be short term, mid term, or a long term, or even a multi-year strategy in some cases. The part of it, digital work is also very critical, right? When we talk about the digital revolution. So maybe Chris, you can share, how important is it to estimate a digital work while building an organization internally or externally, how it is integrated?
Sure, and I think just kind of building on what Marcus is saying is, a good transition here. When everybody's aligned on where we're going and what we're doing, we're making decisions both in the short term and long term to get there. And I think in the short term, in a vacuum, right, you can have multiple options that are acceptable. But if one is not in line with where you're going, we all know at credit unions, we're not stacked up with resources the same way the big banks are. We've got to make the right decisions and the right choices. The same goes for the shiny new object that Marcus was referring to, right? Got to make sure this is really what's important to our members, because it might be a really cool technology, but if we spend 6, 9, 12 months working on something that doesn't provide value, we've just wasted a lot of really, really valuable resources, which really now lends into estimating digital work. I think we all sit here and we talk about these initiatives and when they're going to start to provide value to the organization, to the members. And there's really a good, there's a good balance I think we can strike. Early in my career, I was in accounting and finance, and we had what we refer to as an internal and external plan for a public company. The internal plan was really where we pushed to kind of be aggressive and push our team to achieve really great things with aggressive goals. The external plan was being a little bit more reasonable to the public, going, yeah, well, this project that might take 6 months might take actually a little bit longer than that. So we weren't really behind the 8 ball then if that 6 months turned into 7, 8, 9 months. I think it's important to understand that because when you're starting to commit things to your members, to your board, to the leaders of your organization, that we're all on the same page in terms of expectations, right? There's always going to be things that pop up along the way. The devil's in the details, right? Everybody knows that. But when we talk about getting to launch and understanding what that MVP is, we all want to say in an agile environment, right? We're not driven by dates and time. We're driven by MVP and feature functionality, but it's not always the case, right? I mean, there are things, compliance related things, and other reasons why we might be driven by a date, but communicating that effectively to our leadership, to our members, really will help kind of set the tone in terms of not creating unnecessary pressure on the team. And I think sometimes what happens when we do that is we start to cut corners, we start to create errors, we start to really think about pushing a product out that may not be ready to go. So from a digital perspective, I think it's critical to understand that and have those conversations up front. In my last role, one of the things that we talked about, we did have a deadline and we were trying to launch a product by a conference date. And I use the example, I think the movie was Pearl Harbor. If you remember at one point, they're trying to figure out how to get a plane off an aircraft carrier, and they're throwing everything out. They're throwing tanks of gasoline out and they're throwing machine guns. And they're like, how are we going to fight the enemy? They're like, that's not the goal, right? The goal is to get off the plane, to get off the aircraft carrier. Well, how are we going to fight the enemy? That's not the goal. The goal is to get off the aircraft carrier, right? That's our goal. And if we understand what that is and how we're going to get there, I think that the organization, your business partners, your marketing team, your sales team are all aligned. So I also think when we talk about external partners, it's great in the credit union space. There's some really awesome partners out there from a technology perspective. And when they come and tell you, hey, this is going to take 3 to 6 months to integrate, that's 3 to 6 months if it's a white space, if it's a straightforward integration. And that's not to anything negative on those organizations that are selling you those products. It's really make sure you set a realistic expectation of what you can do. All your credit unions have different and unique things that make somebody eligible for membership. That's a nuance that a lot of those partners that you're engaging with may not have a solution for today, and it may take a little extra time to find that. So I just think it's critical so that we set the expectations across the organization, make sure everybody's on the same page and we're not disappointing, again, internally or externally.
Absolutely, Chris. I think the MVP is very critical. To your point, time bound, and when any timelines are committed to go through that strategy or vision to be accomplished, I think the constant toll gate is very critical to measure the success as well as any challenges, ongoing challenges, which is not addressed with an outcome or a solution, right? I think that's very important. I think with that said, like any organization, the credit unions also going through some of the challenges, right? Especially when AI, a lot of focus on AI and Gen AI. And I know the words are loosely worded, but again, these challenges are very common, especially when integrating those AI technologies. Maybe, Michael, I wanted to hear your perspectives. What are some of those challenges which credit unions are facing today, especially when integrating the AI technologies, and how they can overcome, right?
Yeah, so thank you for having me here. I'm happy to have everybody and see some of you. So to kind of capitalize on what Chris and Marcus have said, everything nowadays is technology, right? And so, really understanding that digital roadmap or what some of those plans are, as well as understanding some of those digital workloads are really important, especially as they've already said in the credit union space, as other areas of the credit union may feel like, that's not necessarily technology. That's not a technology workload to introduce this new product or this new service, or, the third party is going to do all that work for us, and technology resources are not going to be utilized. And they almost always are. And, so kind of having that collaborative, transparent, collection mind meld of, hey, this is what's going on, and having everybody understand, what the direction is, which will help, balance out that workload. Now, all of a sudden, we have this AI that is booming absolutely everywhere. Every time you scroll through social media, there's some new AI in your face saying, hey, it's going to solve all your problems. And I think as far as credit unions goes, it's going to be something that credit unions are already starting to adopt. It's definitely something that our vendors are going to adopt. And to overcome that is really to have, in my opinion, an AI strategy, just like you would have a technology roadmap or any other, product and service strategy or anything like that. And a strategy doesn't mean you have to have the whole puzzle put together and, oh, yep, this is exactly where we're going to be. But it does keep it top of mind. And then you can compare that strategy with your digital strategy and your other workload to go, okay, when would it make sense for us to adopt certain AI features, and how are we going to use that to where they're going to be the most beneficial for either our membership or our employee experience, or or whatever the case may be. So really investing a little bit of time in mapping that out, I think, will really pay dividends.
Thanks, Michael. Maybe I would like to extend this topic to Chris. I'm sure this human versus AI, always there is a conversation going on, right? What humans supposed to do versus what AI is supposed to do. Whether AI is going to take over completely the human. A lot of frustration going on, as well as lack of clarity is there. Maybe you can share some of your views, like, how these cases can be handled between, how the delineation can happen between the human versus AI, and, so that it's much more efficient for an organization to handle when it comes for a large volume or a scale to grow, both from a customer retention standpoint as well as new customer onboarding standpoint.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's a lot of great things that we can do. I think to add to Michael's point, I think one of the things in that AI strategy is, to kind of build on is the maintenance of that, right? So often we put in these programs and launch something. We don't think enough about what it's going to take to maintain it. But when you think about where these use cases are most helpful, I would definitely say that taking the human out of the happy path scenarios, it should be your goal, right? Where these are black and white, right? This is whether it's approving membership or not, whether it's approving a money movement transaction for fraud reasons or whatever the case may be, right? The black and white parts of those is really, I think, the starting point for AI. The complex situations, I think, is where you need to bring in a human to say, hey, AI is telling me I should reject this. Let me take another look at this. Is this telling me what I think it should, or are there exceptions that we need to start to build into the model here? I don't think right now, we have robust enough examples in a lot of places to just let things run. Chatbots are a really good example of some form of AI that's been around for a while. And I think everybody, on the call could say, we've had some imperfect, interactions with a chatbot for one reason or another. Doesn't mean we ditch chatbots. It means we continue to iterate, but we need that human intervention to understand where those gaps are and continue to improve. So, oversight into the AI solutions that you're putting in place, I would say is critical. Don't just put it in, and not that anyone would do this, and put it in and just let it go. There's obviously bigger implications from a regulatory perspective, from legal perspective, but make sure those complex scenarios, and I think this goes for solutions or customer service or whatever it might be, don't try and automate or digitize the super complex situations right away, right? Credit union members, I found, want to talk to people in our understanding in most situations. Even when I was at Alliant, the last branches that we had were at United Airlines, at least behind the doors for United Airlines employees. And they had regular cadence of stopping in and wanting to talk to you. So don't cut that part out. That's part of your relationship, and use those times to handle the complex situations. But AI, again, starting point, all the black and white stuff, all the happy path stuff, you can start to look at those and start to address those one by one.
I totally agree. Starting small is probably one of the biggest things, especially in any organization, but especially in the credit union space. Chris, to your point about how that member experience, credit unions are really known for that member experience. I can pick up the phone and talk to somebody. I'm going to get that, hey, I know who you are, all that good stuff. If you start to replace some of that with AI, it's going to lose that warm, fuzzy feeling that credit unions are known for, and that's what we want to keep on the credit union movement. And those black and white things, Chris, I think you said it so well. Those are those things that you want to automate. Those are those things you want to, put through an AI engine, and then get up to that human to make that decision. That was awesome.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think you were kind of in a polarity situation, if you will. How do we do both, right? I mean, how do you ensure that you still have that human interaction, and how do you use AI as a tool to gain efficiencies and to improve your member experience? And I think one thing that Chris kind of alluded to, I think governance is extremely important. Michael alluded to it as well, right? So you have hallucinations that are out there. You have chatbots that are out there that aren't as truthful or as efficient as we anticipated. So that governance and that oversight is going to be extremely important, kind of the guardrails and the rules of the road. This is how we're going to do what we're going to do in our organization. And I think data is going to be a big part of that as well. It's almost the scenario unit, garbage in, garbage out, right? So you need to make sure that you have solid data integrity within your organization that you're using to drive AI solutions and to drive some of the outcomes that's anticipated. So the guardrails, the data security, the compliance, I think kind of laying that groundwork is important. It's almost like when you're building a city, right? You have to build the roads, and then you have to build the plumbing and things of that sort. I think the governance is really the roads of how we're going to get there. And if you don't have solid roads, then everything else that you're riding on it's really not going to be as efficient as you think it should be.
Absolutely.
If I can just add one more thing, I think the other thing right now, when we talk about our member experience, right now, those long teller interactions or those long phone calls are such a drag on the people waiting in line behind them, right? If we can address the standard black and white things, we actually create more bandwidth to provide more of a white gloves, customer experience for those people that have those complex situations. And we don't have to have that kind of black cloud hanging over it going, hey, I need to spend 10 minutes with Marcus, right? And I don't care, that line is shorter behind him, right? I can spend the time talking to Marcus for 10 minutes because he needs some help. This isn't really easy. So I think it creates a scenario to improve the experience on those complex ones by creating bandwidth and not having to increase costs from a service perspective.
Absolutely. I think those foundational services are very critical, especially data-driven approach is always very logical, at least to measure our success, whether it is short or mid or long term, whether are we aligning to the strategy where we started. I think this is a great discussion, right? Glad all three sharing your views that those perspectives would really help the participants to get some views, right? I think we touched mostly on the vision strategy, how the digital workforce is very critical, as well as how we can delineate between the human versus AI. Maybe I think most of these are already, we touched it. Maybe Marcus, if you can, take this to the next level. What is your value proposition, the key value proposition to attract any customer or member? Because the customer retention is very, very challenging given the competitive landscape that we're all going through today. The retention is very critical, making them happy as well as adding them more value on a day in, day out scenario. So I just wanted to hear some of your thought process, Marcus.
Absolutely. I think Chris was going down that road in our last conversation. I think you really need to understand your members. And right now, there's a broad spectrum of members. I mean, we have millennials that they don't want to talk to people. And then you have the boomers, they don't want to pick up a phone. They want to talk to people. So really understanding your member base or your customer base. What is it that they want to see from us? Because there's a financial institution on every other block, and then you have the SoFis and the Acorns. So there are digital institutions that are there as well. So really understanding, number one, what is my member base? What do my members want? And the only way you're going to figure that out is how do you communicate that with them? Is it that you have relationships in the branches? Is it that you have digital channels that you communicate through your mobile app? You have an online banking solution that you have a communication tool. So number one, figuring out, hey, what is it that my members are looking for? I think that's first and foremost from a retention standpoint. Secondly, from a growth standpoint, what is it that we do differently from anyone else? I'll take a loan application. If it takes someone at financial institution B to fill out a mortgage and it takes them 20 minutes online, well, how do I make that a 2 to 5 minute process? Now I'm attracting customers that, hey, we can go to Smart Financial and it takes us 5 minutes, and then we can see if we're approved or not approved. So how do you really get to a point where you're differentiating your organization, your experience from anyone else? And then lastly, I think is, how do you make sure that your members are what I call raving fans of your organization? That could be, the white glove service. That could be kind of the pillow on the mint, if you will. That could be rewards. What are the things that not only going to retain my customers, but make my customer a raving fan to where they can go and say, hey, Chris, I was at Smart Financial yesterday and they did A, B, and C and they were fantastic. Well, now Chris is going to go tell his friend. And then his friend is going to go tell his friend. And then Michael is going to go tell his friend. So it gets to a point where it spreads like a wildfire. So it's not just transactional. It's not just your member experiences. How do you create this ecosystem to where people are raving fans of your organization and they want to go there? I mean, there are hotels that I go to that I travel because of the experience that I had the last time I was there. Yeah, there are cheaper hotels that are around. There may even be closer hotels that are around. But when I get to that hotel, I know that I'm going to have the absolute superb service that I get each and every time that I go to any one of those chains. So that's really the value proposition, I think, for any organization. How do you get to the point where you have raving fans?
And
Thanks,
I think with
Michael.
a credit union, you already have that. What's great about it is you already have, some form of community established already in your membership base, right? They're all members for some common reason. So that raving fan and that communication that Marcus is talking about, there's already a little bit of, whether it's direct or indirect, willingness to listen to that person because there is some sense of community, right? We are alumni of the same school, or employees of, or former employees of the same organization. Whatever that membership criteria is, there's something in common that those people have already. And I think that message becomes more powerful or louder because you're able to reach those people that are kind of within that same community.
Thanks, Chris and Marcus. Maybe I think you all three covered a little bit on this, but I still wanted to hear maybe Michael from your end. While we talk about improving the member experience, you can be very specific on how AI can improve that. Plus, the second part of it, I also wanted to understand how the whole employee engagement thing comes, right? Because both are very critical. You need to maintain your workforces to serve the community, which is the members and customers. So I just wanted to hear your views as well, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think, a value proposition really is, our employees, right? Typically, credit union employees are very loyal to their credit union, and that's awesome. And then that kind of extends to that greater member experience. So, as we talk about emerging technologies and especially in the space of AI, and as the financial world as a whole gets more and more complex, and it seems like as often as new AI technologies are coming out, tenfold of new policies and regulations and CFPB this and no more courtesy pay and all this stuff is constantly changing. And so where AI, again, as you start to build out that strategy, where it can really help, I think is, for you can imagine, an MSC, a contact center rep, or anybody in the organization where you've placed all of your policies and procedures inside an AI engine, and they're able to, ask a question, hey, member's got this question, I don't know what it is. And that AI can provide some context around it to be able to answer that question or keep that conversation going with all the, the materials right there, instead of putting the member on hold and having to call another department or open a ticket with tech support or whatever the case may be. That's an example of how AI can enhance both the employee engagement and experience by having a lot of that data at their fingertips, as well as that member experience. There's a lot of risk associated with that. I'm sure we can go into that, but that's just an example of how emerging technologies, can really add a lot of that value. And I think, Marcus, when you were talking about the member experience and the member value of, okay, credit union B, I can go 20 minutes through this process versus credit union A, I can go 5 minutes through that process. I think that's really critical for the employee experience as well. Leveraging technologies for greater collaboration and all those stuff will really help with capturing that engagement. As credit unions, we often do have a lower bandwidth on resources, and we can't always adopt the pretty cool things. And as the younger generations come into our workforce saying, well, man, I was at this other company that had to be a credit union, and they had all these cool stuff. Why aren't you guys doing that? Oh, well, gee, we don't have the resources to necessarily implement that. And I think that ties well into everything we're talking about today, right? Having that digital strategy, understanding the workload, and then, prioritizing what makes the most sense and being agile to flex that prioritization as technology changes, as regulations change.
Yeah, and I think in more of a practical sense, I think it would be a good idea to find different workflows that AI can help with efficiency, right? So I'll give you an example. If we have the accounting department that we have spreadsheets that it's taken hours and hours and hours to comb through. Is there any way we can use AI, not necessarily to replace those people, but how can we use AI to make those gain those efficiencies and make some of those workflows work smoother and faster than what they're working at? And then also too, from a member standpoint, there are a lot of transactions that go on in the credit union space. And if you can use AI to help some of those transactions, then you can really take your employees and help them focus on building relationships and really getting your organization to where you know your members, you know what makes them want to return, you know them from a relational standpoint. So how do you use that in the front office, if you will, to streamline some of the day-to-day mundane tasks so you can take your employees and have them focus more on developing relationships and more on strategic initiatives as opposed to the day-to-day transactions?
Thank
And I
you
also
both.
think that,
Yep.
oh, sorry, just real quick, I think to Michael's point, when we talk about the employee experience, and I know there's a lot of risks in, from a service perspective in introducing that, but as your organization's getting comfortable with AI in general, and employees are using those tools, the goal is to make it easier for them to do their jobs. But I do think internally is a good way to introduce AI with at least a little, maybe not less risk, but a different type of risk, to your members and to that experience. Because internally, obviously, you can say, hey, look, Michael, there might be some bugs with this. If you get one, here's what you do, right? That's a little different than, telling a member, hey, when you log in, it might be broken, right? That's not the same thing, right? So I think internally, as you get your start and understand how it works, is a really great opportunity to start to learn and then figure out your AI roadmap.
I
Makes sense.
totally agree. Look at all the technology we've introduced in the past several years where we've used our employees, our member employees, as that test bed, ITMs and ACH deposit and tap to pay and all that stuff. I think, again, Chris, spot on with use that team that's already in place, that test bed that's already in place.
Completely agree. With rapid changes happening day in, day out, I think keeping them up to date is very challenging. With that said, maybe like Chris, maybe let me ask you, right? There will be too many priorities going on in any organization, especially in credit union, to meet some of your market facing as well as in-house, as well as customer retention, as well as, we keep talking the critical things, employee retention, so many things we spoke about it. When so many priorities going in parallel, how do you, again, this is applicable to any organization, right? Maybe some of your views would also help, not just credit unions. How do you prioritize, which one should go when, and, at the same time, you don't want to lose the momentum on the other priorities, right? Which is going to yield some of the results in near and long term.
Sure. I think, from a prioritization purpose or perspective, it's which initiative is providing, the most value to your organization, and at what point in time does it begin doing that. But I do think in terms of having too many things going on, I know that one of the last teams that kind of came under my purview when I was at Alliant had all these business partners. We had all these great things we were doing. And it was almost like Michael had locked into this resource and Marcus had locked into this resource, and it felt like they were reserving engineers to work on their priorities. And what ended up happening is this team had 4 engineers working on 4 different priorities. So a couple obvious challenges, right? If you have one person working on one thing, it takes longer to deliver, which means you get value delivered later to your organization, to the member. You have less engineers that know how to work a single solution. Obviously, you just can't throw in a crazy amount of engineers at things. There becomes a point in time where you start to trip over each other. However, there needs to be more than one person that knows how this thing works. People leave organizations, right? People change jobs. It happens. There's got to be more than one person. But it also, think about all the things in the periphery that it drives. If you have 4 initiatives or whatever the number is that's relative to your organization, right? But if you have 4 initiatives going on right now, you're having 4 update meetings, 4 calls with maybe the same stakeholders about different topics, all the resources that you're consuming, and you're literally pushing things out way into the future because you're spending so few, you have so little focus on it from an engineering perspective, from a build perspective. I tend to, the minimum for me in my mind is to have 2 resources on a, you know, if you want to call it a major initiative, whatever you want to label it. But I do think you need to have more people that know how these things work and more focus on those things, right? And the last part about that is we are all quick to jump off when we feel like something, you know, I talked about estimating earlier, right? The same goes for sequencing and prioritization. We're all sitting here going, all right, I got to finish project A because we got to start on project B. And as soon as we turn over, we forget that, right, there's going to be bugs and defects, and that's normal, right? You're going to go through that, and you might need to iterate on it a little bit. And we tend to walk away from things a little too quickly, I think. So I really think it's critical to provide the right amount of focus on the right. It makes it even more critical to identify the right initiative, right? The right starting point for AI, for whatever it might be. But just having, I used to tell my business partners, I'm like, they only saw value in engineering resources writing code. There's value in user research. There's value in user testing. None of those require engineers to go build anything. There's value in all these different things you can do before you get there, which makes it easier on the engineer. And I try to put an emphasis on those things and get away from this idea that we're only creating value when we start writing code, because that's completely inaccurate. And it's a challenge, right? Because people, that's how they see progress, right? What did you build this week, or what did you build this month? And I think we've got to get away from that a little bit and deliver things more in a shorter time period, and frankly, more effectively, right? More people, more eyes, better quality, a better product at the end of the day.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, and if I could, I think, because I think this is a very important topic, because it have anybody that's been in IT for some time, it happens all the time, right? And I think, you know, as we kicked off the call, I think it's going to be very important to articulate the vision of the strategy of the company. I actually walked through an exercise with our leadership team in a previous organization, to where we all agreed. We were in a room for several hours. We had sticky notes. We had, you know, posters on the wall. And when we left that room, we had a list of 15 to 20 initiatives, and that was our roadmap for the year. And the only way we're going to deviate from that is if we needed to adapt to a new condition, or if there was something that changed with the strategy. And we got buy-in from the leadership team. So now that we have buy-in, anything that's outside of that roadmap that we created needed to come back to the executive team, because that helps the organization stay focused, right? Because if we're working on something that pertains to a product that we want to launch in 3 years, well, that's really a waste of time, because we haven't even started any initiatives for this year. So, you know, when you get to the point where there are so many initiatives and scope creep comes in and people are kind of going off in their own lane, I think it goes back to leadership and communication and the why. And I think, you know, if you can establish that and hold your people accountable, then it kind of helps with that. I'm not going to say it totally alleviates that, because, you know, I would be remiss to say that it doesn't happen. Silos don't exist, and people don't go off and do their own thing. We all know that happens, right? It's just how do you control it, and how do you keep focus on the strategy, and how do you keep focus on the goals that were outlined initially?
I think that certainly helps, Marcus. Maybe if you can also touch on, I know we spoke a little bit, all three of you shared some of your views about how to keep the talents up to date with the, like, upskill, right, with all the new technologies, concepts that is coming in, and also so that the experience is very seamless, right? Our adoption is very seamless. And from an end customer standpoint, when they consume all these changes happening within the company, they should not see that there's a drastic changes on their experiences, right? So how do you balance these two? Then after your views, maybe I'll take, there is one question from the participant, maybe I'll take that question, yeah.
So I think the balance is really understanding the member perspective when you're going into the initiatives that you're working on, right? Because we could totally miss the mark if we don't have that member experience, or if we don't identify what the outcomes are. I mean, we're working really hard, really fast, and we're delivering but we're missing the mark because we don't understand, or we didn't understand initially, what the outcome was supposed to be. I mean, we can run really fast, really sharply, and we're running south and we were supposed to be running north. That doesn't mean that nobody was given the effort. That doesn't mean that nobody wasn't dedicated. It was just we were running really fast in the wrong direction. So I think it's going to be very important to make sure that the entire team or the entire organization understand what direction we're running in. And then also make sure that you are using empathy when it comes to the member, right? So if we have websites that we're working on, the product's going to be great, but give us 6 months. Well, nobody wants to go to a website that's going to be up and down for the next 6 months, even though in 6 months it's going to be great. Well, nobody wants to walk through that experience with you from a member standpoint. So really keeping the member experience in mind. Again, how do you balance and how do you do both? How do we make products that are efficient? How do we make products that are valuable to the organization? But we also need to keep in mind that we still have to keep the doors open. We still have members that we have to serve on a day-to-day basis. So how do you keep that in mind while you're developing, while you're executing, and while you're delivering?
Yep. Unless Chris or Michael, if you want to add it, there is a question from Rishabh Kumar. The question is, what are some areas you see fintech making the most impact for credit unions? And a little broader, but you guys can feel free to, touch some of the key aspects of it.
Yeah.
I can take this one as well. Go ahead, Michael.
No, please, Marcus, by all means.
Yeah, and Chris mentioned it earlier, and Michael, I think you alluded to it as well. We don't have a blank checkbook, right? I mean, I would love to come in and say, hey, I want to hire a team of 15 developers. We're going to have the best mobile app in the credit union space out of anyone if you can give me a team of 15. Well, I don't have a budget to do that. And I think where we capitalize on fintechs is that they are very specialized in what they do, and they deliver services based on what their company can provide. And most of them have, agile methodology that they use, and most of them are very, very, very good, if not great, at the services they deliver on. So even if I hire a team of 15 developers, it's probably going to take me longer to develop something that I can go to fintech A, B, and C and say, okay, hey, here are my deliverables, here are my outcomes. Let me know the price, and here's a timeline. They're likely to be able to spin up resources, or they already have existing resources that could probably deliver a lot faster, and time to market is going to be a lot shorter for them than it is for us. So that's one of the things that I think a partner will help an organization like a credit union is deliverable, efficiency, and even cost, right? I mean, the cost model may be cheaper than it is for me to hire 15 developers. So I think doing that cost analysis prior to that helps with that decision as well.
Overall, to the fintech space, because we're all kind of holding our breath, waiting for the next cool fintech thing to be developed and come out. And I think what's going to really impact credit unions, unfortunately, a little negatively, we're going to have to really be aware of this, is when that fintech comes out, whatever it is, and the big banks that do have a lot of resources to, well, we're going to develop it, we're going to put it inside our mobile app, we're going to put it inside our online banking or whatever, and have that adoption and being able to offer that and pull members away from the credit unions because that's cool technology that everybody wants. We're just going to have to be really cognizant of that because, Marcus, as you were saying, it might be a couple of years before we can get to that point, or we can offer it, but it's going to be a separate app. You no longer get that one-stop shop, which is really what everybody wants, right? Everything in one location. And then that's going to drive down adaptability. And then, okay, wow, we just spent 30, 40,000 to implement this or more. And we're seeing that low adoption because our third parties didn't develop an API or an integration into it. And then, of course, if they want 30,000 to develop it and integrate it, and then they're going to resell it. And it's this big thing. So it's really, I think fintech overall, as new and more stuff come out, it's just we have to be careful and we have to be cautious. And sometimes, and I can't believe I'm even saying this, but sometimes it's okay to pause a little bit and kind of wait and see, and be a little bit of a fast follow, just to see if that's going to take off, or let some other folks develop it.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of really good points there. Marcus referred to not having the resources. I think fintechs are in some cases helping level or even out the playing field a little bit with some of the big banks, because we don't have to build everything ourselves, right? There's access to plug into another solution. And Michael alluded to this as well. You don't have to go after every shiny object, right? You have to understand what your member base wants, what products are important to them, and how those features relate to them. If you make choices wisely in what provides value to your member base, you don't have to do all those things. And the example I always gave is, I know for my entire tenure at Alliant, we talked about voice, right? And at the time, I remember Bank of America had introduced Erica. And every quarter they would announce how much progress Erica had made and how many people were using it. And for almost a year and a half, they had 14 commands or 18 commands or 20, whatever it was. People used one command, Erica, what's my balance, right? And think about how much money they put into that. Now for them, there's marketing around it too, right? But for us, when we're sitting here going at Alliant, should we do this? And then we would do user testing or user research with our members, and they're like, they actually felt more skeptical about it. Like there were security concerns and fraud concerns. There's no interest. But if we would have followed down the path of going, hey, we're a digital credit union and we have to do this because this is the cool, shiny new thing, we would have wasted money. We would have had a bad member experience, and probably low adoption. So we did this year after year in the research and continued to follow up, and it continued to say, no, don't do it. So my point being is, every shiny new object, to Michael's point, may not be right for you, and your members may not care if you don't have it. So be aware of that as well.
I think that that's very loud and clear. Hope, Rishabh, you got all the responses from all the three experts. I think with that said, maybe in interest of time, what I'll do is, Chris, maybe if you can touch on, we heard enough about the challenges, retention, keeping the cutting edge technologies ahead of the competition, whatever, right, to have a seamless experience. Maybe to Chris, I wanted to hear more about how do you make that build versus buy decision, right? It's very critical to make that decision point in time. And also it should support you in long run, right? Second, from Michael, I wanted to hear from you about how this AI is affecting the talent assessment and retention, right? Especially in credit union industry. Maybe Chris,
Sure.
you can go first.
Sure. From a build buy perspective, we've touched on this in multiple different places. I think the things that are part of your brand and your value proposition that you want to control as a credit union, as an organization, and control from an experience perspective, as best you can, I would say those are the things you want to build, right? The things that are not going to bring, they're nice things, or they're kind of, just check the box items. We did a bill pay integration. I didn't need to build my own bill pay system. No one, I'm not going to sell Michael on Alliant Credit Union because how great our bill pay system is. That's not the value prop, right? So did it match perfectly? And was the experience, UX and UI exactly identical and everything? No, but that wasn't a differentiator for us. What was a differentiator for us was our choice to build our own mobile app, right? And that was important because we wanted to be in control of the features and functionality that we introduced in our mobile app, the design of that mobile app. And we didn't want to have to go to a third party and say, hey, will you please integrate with Visa and integrate credit card activation in your mobile app and beg them for 6, 9, 12 months. We wanted control of that. But that's an example of where we thought the value in our brand was better represented in investing our own time there, as opposed to something in that example like bill pay. Again, it's going to vary based on your member base and what products are most relevant to them. But yeah, I think that's the most important thing when you think about it, is to make sure you're getting bang for your buck and have control over the things that you want control over.
Thanks, Chris. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, so AI really, again, I said it a couple times here, continues to change the world, continues to change all the industries. From a talent perspective, especially in the technology space and in the credit union space as a whole, we really have to up our game, because every cover letter you're going to see and every resume is going to have some AI, cleaned up. And I think we just have to be a lot more cautious in our space, because again, a lot of interviews are done on video calls where AI is going to be available to people on their fingertips, and they're going to be able to answer questions on demand, even questions that they may not be as experts, that they're making themselves out to be. So and then they get into that role, and all of a sudden you have an engineer or somebody who is using AI to generate code and then passing it off as as their own. So that's kind of some of the risks and concerns around talent, as is, and again, that's not localized just to credit unions, that's everywhere. But on the flip side of that, retention really comes into play of, if you're limiting AI use, then you have to be really careful as well.
Thanks, Michael. There is a question from Rishab Kumar again. What are the best opportunities that digital transformation brings to credit unions? And how important is innovation in the journey of going digital for credit unions? Who want to chime in? Go ahead. Yeah.
I can take that one. I think it really ties back to, like we talked about, the member experience. And then I also think it ties back to, what does digital transformation mean to your organization? It's not necessarily, as Chris mentioned earlier, what is it that our members are looking for? And if they're looking for a decision engine that's taking less time than we're taking, then let's digitize that. Or if they're looking for, loan approval rates that are higher than what you're providing today, then let's look into that as well. So I think it really ties back to what the expectations of your members are, and then also what the expectations of your employees are. Because, I think Chris may have mentioned this as well, our members may not want the next cool tool that's out there. Hey, we could fully digitize our mobile app, and we could put chatbots in there, and you don't ever have to interact with a human ever again. Well, that's not going to go over well just with some of our member base, right? So you have to be careful on what is it that your members are looking for, and what is your growth strategy, and how do you tie your digital transformation to your existing member base as well as your growth strategy. I mean, I had a friend of mine, they decided, hey, we're going to go from in branches, and we're going to close half of our branches, and we're going to go the other half digital. Well, they lost 15% of their membership within the first 6 months, because people wanted to go in branches, not necessarily go digital. But they didn't understand that initially. So that was one of those things where it was a hard lesson to learn. But if you don't know your members, and you don't know what your expectations are from those members, and you don't know your growth strategy, then it's kind of hard to tie your digital roadmap or your digital strategy to that member experience. So I think member experience and growth strategy is very important with aligning your digital transformation strategy.
Thanks, Marcus. There is another question from Bala Chandur. The question is, what advice would you give to credit union leaders who are just starting their digital journey?
Sure, yeah, I can jump on that. So if you're just starting your digital journey, I know we've said this quite a bit already, starting small. I always think of, when you're trying to tackle something big, you got somebody with a giant sack of bricks, and you're trying to pull them all at once instead of opening the bag and taking brick by brick to try to move that forward. It's very similar, with your digital journey of, you don't have to do everything at once. You don't have to do everything to 100. You have to wait till everything's at 100% to implement it. That analysis paralysis effect of, oh man, it has to be perfect. And it has to be perfect for every member and every type of member. And we have to solve every little nuance. Well, these handful of members are going to be upset about this, and these handful of members are going to be upset about that. There has to just be a common ground, especially in any kind of digital transformation. And I think, in any type of journey, whether it's a digital or product or project or any type, I think the leadership is really a key component to making sure that whatever journey, especially the digital journey, everyone's in line, everybody's marching to the same tune. Having a good focus on well-crafted leadership and leaders that are prepared to lead other people through whatever you're going through, whatever journey you're going through is going to be critical. So investing in some leadership development in order to successfully execute that digital journey or any journey for that matter, I think is really a key component as well.
Yep.
Say that
Thanks, Michael.
I would say that every step of the way, two things, every step of the way, don't forget about security, right? It's one of those things we haven't talked much about, but don't forget about security. If you're just starting out, every step of the process, right? Logging in, money movement, all those things, don't forget about security. And then I really think the thing that has served me well is do less things better, right? Don't worry about having everything. The things you do them really, really well, and your members will be happy.
Makes sense. I think that's very critical as well. Thanks, Chris, for highlighting the security.
And I know we have kind of time crunch here. One other thing I would add is a lesson that I learned in my career is be sure that you understand the business of a credit union. A lot of times as technologists, we focus on technology and we kind of have the blinders on, really focusing on, excuse me, innovation and collaboration, and we don't understand the business. Technology is really evolving into business outcomes. What is it that you could do from a technology perspective to help the organization achieve business outcomes? So I think that that's one thing to keep in mind. Be sure that you understand the business of a credit union.
Thank you, Marcus. I have one last topic to go through. Maybe Michael, if you can, because not all small credit unions has that resources, required resources to, implement or handle the day-to-day situation when it comes for technology, especially for AI. So how they can use that, right? Leverage that AI when compared to large institutions, what they may already have established or in progress. Yeah.
So, I think Marcus and Chris have talked quite a bit about this, especially for those, smaller credit unions is try to find or a partnership, whether it's a fintech or an MSP or whatever the case may be, that can take out those black and white, those what's my balance type transactions, so that, when your resources are very limited, you can focus them on either building relationships or working on other projects rather than, someone, okay, how many calls did you enter this month? I answered 1,000 calls and 50% of them are what my balance might be. You can leverage different technologies out there that are pretty out of the box these days that can help. I don't want to say plug and play because I really hate that expression, especially with technologists, because it's never like that, right? They'll sell you on, yeah, we can have this up and running in 45 days. Woo! And then 45 months go by and you're like, man, is that done yet? But with that said, typically some of those really low hanging fruit are pretty cost advantageous as well as pretty quick. Probably 120-day implementation-ish, depending on what you got going on. And that's where I would start. Clip that whole low-hanging fruit. And if you are, a little bit smaller of an organization, kind of laser focusing on that one or two things. I think, Chris, you were talking about this well, right? Like trying to do 4 or 5 different things all at once with a really small crew. It's going to take a lot longer and it's not going to have the best. So drop some things if you need to, and focus on sprinting through some things to get them done, get them implemented, do them well, and then move on to the next thing, especially, again, if you're a small shop.
Thanks, Michael. Any closing comments from Chris or Marcus?
Just first, a big thank you to you all for having me and everybody for joining. Love the credit union space and what it does and what it provides for its members. I love the idea. My passion has always come from, the better we do, the more things we can build for our members, or the better the interest rates we can provide for our members. I love that part about this. And shameless plug, I'm a free agent these days. So if anybody wants to chat and has some work I can help with, shoot me a note.
Sure.
Yeah, and
Thanks, Rich.
likewise, I want to thank you guys for inviting me. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I really enjoyed the dialogue with the two of my colleagues here. One thing that I would say is, no one's going to know everything. It's really a journey. It's not a destination. I think we're all learning things differently every day, every minute. There's something different around the corner to learn. So just stay open, stay adaptable, and stay flexible. So thanks again. I do appreciate it.
So there is a famous word, right? If learning stops, we are dead. So I would second you. It's a continuous learning process. Thank you for all three of you sharing all your perspectives. That's very important and very critical. I mean, today's world, we don't have time to even to step back and understand what is going on. I think this 30, 45 minutes, whatever we spent here, it's worth. It's a great perspectives. And I hope we addressed Rishabh's question and Bala Chandra's question. And if there are more questions, please feel free to send us a follow-up. We will take it offline and we'll make sure that those questions are answered as well. Thank you all, and thank you for your time. Over to you, Archana.
Incredible session, actually. It was insightful. Just to wrap up the session, we extend our gratitude to our community partners, the esteemed speakers, the moderator, and the attendees who participated in this conversation, which provided a platform for knowledge enrichment. Our panel speakers and moderator were exceptional, and we appreciate their willingness to come together and share their valuable insights. Well, if you feel you missed something and wish to look back at the session, let me tell you that today's event was live on our company's YouTube page, so you can see the recording anytime. And if you are looking out for recent technological updates and advancements, log on to our website and social media channels. We will share cutting-edge topic discussions, details, announcements of the next events, which will help you register and attend them. Before we wave a goodbye, we thank our knowledge and innovation partner, Information and Technology partner Digit 7. To understand more in depth and connect with them, you can go through their website www.infovision.com and stay up to date with the technological advancements. Furthermore, there is much more in store for this year with a focus on banking, finance, insurance, telecom, retail, and more. So remember, we want to hear from you. Know what you would like to hear from us and stay connected. It was a pleasure bringing this session to you, and we hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did. Look forward to having more sessions with you. Take care. Good day.